The show opens in feudal Japan in the year 1600. This is a time when the Portuguese Catholics are thriving in trade in Japan while keeping the European Protestants at bay. In Osaka, the supreme ruler Taiko has recently passed away, leaving 5 regents in charge until his son is ready to rule. These powerful lords, namely Toranaga, Ishido, Kiyama, Sugiyama, and Ono, are competing for control and forming alliances to secure their position. In the middle of this chaos, an English ship named Erasmus approaches Japan. We see the pilot John Blackthorne navigating his crew through the Magellan Pass in search of the coast. Turns out their ship is the sole survivor of a larger fleet. John is confident that they're close to land, but his captain has lost hope. With the ship falling apart, no supplies, and the crew dwindling, the captain tragically takes his own life despite John's attempts to keep going. Soon, the Erasmus reaches the shore near the village of Ijiro, where it's inspected by the local lord, Yabushige's samurai. They discover the crew, seize them, and await for their lord's arrival. Meanwhile, Lord Toranaga, the main protagonist of the show, arrives at the Osaka Palace accompanied by his general Hiromatsu and their army. Toranaga is one of the 5 warrior lords competing for control of Japan. He rules over the Kanto region with considerable land under his command. He's been summoned to address some serious accusations. The other 4 lords are also present at this gathering, forming the Council of Regents that shares power in the absence of a king. Taiko's heir Ichio is too young to rule, so he will assume the throne when he reaches the age of 16. Meanwhile, the other 4 regions of Japan, Lord Ishido, Lord Kiyama, Lord Sugiyama, and Lord Ono, are plotting against Lord Toranaga due to their concerns about his lineage. It's revealed that he hails from the influential house of Minowara, while the others have risen from more humble backgrounds. Upon Toranaga's arrival, Lord Oshido accuses him of abusing the authority granted by the late supreme ruler. He expanded his control over the Kanto region by entering into 6 marriages. Toranaga assures the regents that his increasing influence does not mean that he wants to disrupt the peace of the land. After this, it's Ishido's turn to speak, and he accuses our hero of kidnapping the heir's mother, Lady Ochiba. Toranaga once again defends himself, explaining that Lady Ochiba's sister is in labor, and she wanted her by her side. Ishido dismisses his explanation as shallow and accuses Toranaga of holding their heir's mother hostage to ensure his own safety. Based on this accusation, he demands that Toranaga not only return her, but also prepare for impeachment because the Council of Regents believes he's unfit to wield power. Hearing this, Toranaga's subjects are infuriated, particularly a guy named Tadayoshi. He suddenly rises from his seat and steps into the meeting room. Unfortunately, this is a grave violation of rules in feudal Japan, because except for the regents, no one's allowed in the meeting room. According to the law, Tadayoshi must now kill his newborn son and himself, because the bloodline is considered polluted. However, Toranaga maintains his composure and apologizes for his subjects' actions. Ishido then presents an impeachment order against him. His fate will be decided by the council's final verdict, which is expected in a few days. After returning, Toranaga and his general discuss Tadayoshi's promise to end himself and his family line as an apology for his violent outbursts in front of the regents. Hiromatsu is particularly worried because his granddaughter Fuji is married to Tadayoshi, but our hero promises that he will save her. In the next scene, Fuji adamantly refuses to give up her child for execution and considers taking her own life before he can be killed. This causes quite a stir in the house. Hiromatsu's daughter-in-law Mariko arrives at the scene and persuades her to surrender the child. She shares her own experience of finding purpose in life after her father's death and convinces Fuji to obey the rules. Reluctantly, she gives up her son. A brief flashback suggests that Mariko has experienced similar heartbreak before. Elsewhere, Hiromatsu receives a secret delivery by bird where he is summoned to Ijiro. At Ijiro, John's crew members begin blaming him for their misfortune. He reassures them that they won't be harmed if they present themselves as innocent traders who have lost their way. However, he warns that if the Japanese realize their true intentions of expanding their kingdom, it's game over for them. John is confident that as long as the ship's rudders along with his private diary and royal decree remain hidden in the captain's quarters, their identities will remain concealed. Unfortunately, nothing goes as planned as one of Yabushige's men refuses to show them mercy and sees them as pirates. John tries to clarify their situation with the help of a Portuguese priest who translates for him. However, the priest panics and lies that John is in fact a pirate. As a result, he's sentenced to execution. In an effort to save himself, John rejects his Christian identity by grabbing the priest's cross and stamping on it. He explains that he and the priest do not follow the same faith. Surprisingly, this convinces Yabushige to spare John's life for now, although he punishes one of his crewmates by boiling him alive. Meanwhile, at Osaka Castle, Toranaga is seen bonding with the young heir, Lord Yoshii. They get along very well and seem to have become friends. The late Taiko's consort Daeon then encourages our hero to embrace his Minowara warrior spirit. She urges him to become the shogun, the top military leader, and protect Chiyo as he's in danger. However, Toranaga has no interest in following the ways of his ancestors or becoming a shogun. Daeon stresses that if he doesn't take the position of power and remains passive, the Council of Regents will conquer. In Ijiro, Yabushige is concerned about the ammunition discovered on the Erasmus, so he plans to keep it a secret from others. He fears that if Toranaga and his clan are eliminated, it could lead to war. So he needs the ammunition for himself. He's also aware that Lord Ishido is not on good terms with the church and their allies. In case they end up in battle, Yabushige's weapons can make him a valuable ally to Ishido. However, his plan fails when Hiromatsu unexpectedly arrives to deal with the Erasmus. Turns out a spy warned Toranaga about the ship in advance through a secret note. He then dispatched Hiromatsu to seize the foreign ship because Ijiro falls within his region. Yabushige, realizing he's about to lose his advantage, tries to convince Hiromatsu that he and Toranaga can trust him to handle the ship and its weapons. However, the latter swiftly puts Yabushige in his place and takes control of the ship, intending to return it to Osaka. As the vessel is being taken back, John crosses paths with Carlos Rodriguez, a Spanish pilot working for the Portuguese. They talk for a while and become fast friends. During their journey, the ship encounters a fierce storm that sends everyone into a state of emergency. But John manages to guide everyone through it using his experience and determination. When they reach the shore of an island, the group realizes that Rodriguez has fallen overboard during the storm and is now lost. Hiromatsu and Yabushige initially show no interest in searching for him, but John says that his piloting skills are necessary to navigate the boat. As a result, they reluctantly agree, and John sets out with Yabushige and some men to find him. After searching for a while, they locate Rodriguez at the bottom of a cliff near the rocks. Yabushige volunteers to climb down and save the Spaniard, but during his descent, he slips and falls on a large rock, sustaining severe injuries. Assuming that no one's coming to save him, he prepares to commit seppuku, a form of ritual suicide. But John throws him a rope in the nick of time, preventing the disaster. This eventually saves both Rodriguez and Yabushige. As they continue on their journey to Osaka, Rodriguez reveals that he found John's private diaries and the rudder he stole from a Spanish sailor. The diaries clearly state that John represents a country that wants to defeat the Spanish, reach Japan, and establish a trade route with them. In other words, the English are trying to invade Japan. Realizing that he's been exposed, John attempts to attack him, but Rodriguez pulls out a gun, making him retreat. Meanwhile, Toranaga hires Mariko as his personal translator as she speaks fluent Portuguese. He trusts her and recognizes the need for reliable allies in these turbulent times. Toranaga believes that John can be a game changer in the ongoing power struggle, potentially saving his clan from certain doom. We're then taken to a flashback from a year ago, where on his deathbed, the ruler Taiko supposedly offered Toranaga the chance to become the sole regent of Japan until Yoshii was ready to rule. However, our hero declined the offer, suggesting the five-regent rule instead. He predicted that if he took the throne, the other lords would assassinate him and then target Yoshii. It appears that Toranaga and Taiko were close friends. The old man regretted not being able to conquer Korea when he was at his strongest. He actually wanted to gift Japan to Toranaga and then go after other new kingdoms. In the present, John is brought before Toranaga's court. Martin Alvida, the Portuguese translator, soon arrives at the scene to assist the regent. However, before that, he was instructed by the leader of the Christian faction to protect their mission. The leader reveals that John's private diaries contain information about the Portuguese' secret base in Macau, which the regents are unaware of. Following this, John begins speaking while Martin translates. He explains that he's from England and describes the religious conflicts between the Protestants and Catholics. He also claims that England and Portugal have been at war lately. Toranaga seems to be impressed by John's sincerity, as he has a slight smile on his face. However, their discussion is interrupted by Lord Ishido's sudden arrival. He demands that John be in prison so Toranaga can focus on returning Lady Ochiba and his post-impeachment plans. Our hero doesn't want any unnecessary conflict at the moment, so he reluctantly sends John to jail for the time being. Later, Toranaga's plans are revealed in a late-night meeting with his inner circle. Turns out, Lord Kiyama and Ono, the Christian regents loyal to the Portuguese, see John's presence in Osaka as a threat. Toranaga wants to use this to his advantage. Before the regents decide to overthrow him, the Christian lords will demand John's execution. Toranaga hopes this disagreement between the regents will prevent them from impeaching him. Mariko likes the idea, but she expresses her concerns about John, believing he's dangerous. She warns Toranaga not to underestimate him at any cost. The scene then shifts to the prison where John meets Father Domingo, a fellow Protestant who has been in Japan for nearly 3 decades. The latter explains how he initially came to Japan to spread the word of God, but ended up learning about silk, gold, and guns. He reveals that Toranaga is actually confined to the castle, awaiting his impeachment. This is why he's attempting to use John for his own benefit. He also talks about Toranaga's Minowara bloodline, believed to carry a divine mandate to rule as shogun. Father Domingo further explains that due to strained relationships between Japan and China, other countries serve as intermediaries in trade. This is where the Portuguese seized the opportunity with their black ship stationed in Macau, handling most of the lucrative business. The late Taikau attempted to disrupt this arrangement, but the Society of Jesus provoked a rebellion to prevent his efforts, and the regents remain unaware of these intricate details. To save himself, John wants to warn Toranaga about this, but he first needs to escape from the jail to convey the message. The following morning, the regents, excluding Toranaga, assemble to discuss the situation. Ishido urges the rest of the lords to proceed with Toranaga's impeachment as expected. The Christians, Kiyama and Ono, want John to be executed first. This delays the impeachment for the time being. Later, Ishido meets with Yabushige outside the castle, and it turns out they used to be friends in the army. The two decide to join forces and overthrow the rest of the lords, one by one. Yabushige then reveals his plan. He wants to use John and the ship to neutralize the Christian lords once Toranaga is removed from power. When Ishido reveals that he's already signed John's execution order, Yabushige devises a plan to save the English pilot. He recruits local bandits and ambushes the men escorting John to his execution. Then, he brings the English pilot to Toranaga. Upon arriving, John wastes no time and starts pleading his case, while Mariko acts as his translator. He explains that his Protestant queen is not Japan's enemy. Rather, they both oppose the Portuguese. He then reveals the truth about the Portuguese agenda, including their efforts to convert the Japanese and claim Japan as their own territory. As he continues the story, Toranaga learns that the Spanish and Portuguese control the Magellan Pass, which allowed the Erasmus to reach Japan. These empires seek to dominate the New World, including Japan, by displacing non-Catholic rulers. Toranaga is shocked by this revelation, but he already has a plan in mind. He asks John whether he is ready to join forces against the Portuguese. The latter immediately says yes, and therefore, he's allowed to stay in a lavish quarter that night.